What if one of the big reasons why your child's struggling at school is simply just the time that they're forced to wake up in the morning? Not behaviour, not motivation, biology. Because what we now know from sleep research is that for many young people, especially teenagers, their body clock actually shifts later during puberty. Their bodies want to go to sleep later at night and then wake up later in the morning. So when we try to wake them up early for school, we actually may be asking them to try to function at a time where their brain's just not fully awake. If you've got a child who can't get to sleep at night, can't get up in the morning, is constantly exhausted, or they're struggling with school distress, you need to consider that sleep may be one of the reasons. As a behaviour support practitioner, I make sure that I stay on top of the latest research. But honestly, this is something that I see every day working with families. I work with young people who are not attending school, experiencing high levels of anxiety, shutting down or having explosive behaviours. Because in a lot of these cases, the child's not starting the day in a calm, regulated state. They're starting the day exhausted, overwhelmed, or already under pressure. And if we miss how fatigued the child actually is, we end up putting strategies in place that they just don't have the capacity to use. Now, this is really important because not all sleep issues are the same. There's actually two main patterns that we see. The first is what the research talks about in teenagers. During adolescence, there's a biological shift in their circadian rhythm. That means that teenagers actually feel more alert at night and don't feel sleepy until later. That's not a choice. It's not about screens, it's not poor discipline. It's a developmental change in what's happening in their body. These are the kids who take a long time to fall asleep. They wake up frequently during the night. They struggle to settle their bodies or never seem fully rested. For these young people, it's less about their body clock changing and it's more about how their nervous system regulates, how their brain processes stimulation, and how quickly they can settle and go to sleep. So while these two causes might be different, the outcome is still the same. They're not getting the sleep that they actually need. Whether it's a teenager whose body clock shifted or a young person that just struggles to settle, we know that sleep is incredibly important for a young person's development. And the research gives us some really clear guidelines. For younger school-aged children, it's about 9 to 11 hours per night. For teenagers, it's 8 to 10 hours per night. Now, these are ranges because every child is different. Some function quite well at the lower end. Others need a lot more. But what we do know is this: when a child consistently gets less than what their body needs, you start to see impacts on mood, behaviour, attention, and emotional regulation. And what we end up getting is a young person that's not getting enough sleep and then being expected to function in a high demand school environment. And that's where things really start to break down. The issue isn't always bedtime, and that's where a lot of the focus usually is. It's often the wake-up time, because school systems and schedules don't change even if your child's needs do. So what happens is this: a young person who's already having sleep difficulties is forced to wake up early every single day. This has a big impact on their cognitive ability and their concentration. And importantly, there's also strong links in the research with these types of problems and increased school absence. Sometimes it's really tricky to identify a sleep problem because it doesn't always look like a sleep issue. Sometimes it's the "I feel sick in the morning," the headaches or stomach aches, emotional outbursts, shutdown, or refusal to go to school. Here's one of the biggest clues. If your child sleeps in on the weekend, seems to do better on school holidays, but struggles massively on school mornings, that's not random. That's something that's called social jet lag. It's when a young person's internal body clock is out of sync with their schedule. And even in younger children, you'll often see a version of this. They recover when the pressure of the schedule's off and they can sleep in, and then struggle when the weekday demands kick back in. So every Monday, they're being pulled back into a routine that their body just isn't coping with. Now, I want to be really clear because sleep certainly isn't the only reason why children struggle at school, but it can be a really important piece of the puzzle, especially when a child's already dealing with anxiety, sensory overload, social challenges, or learning difficulties. So what looks like refusal, avoidance, or problem behaviour can actually be a child who's exhausted and overwhelmed. And sometimes there does need to be flexibility in wake-up times, because if a child's starting the day absolutely exhausted, they're not going to get much out of the day anyway. Focus on the basics, avoiding caffeine or sugary drinks later in the day, reducing stimulation before bed, screens off at least an hour before sleep, dimming the lights so the body knows that it's time to wind down, and having consistent sleep routines. There's really good evidence that magnesium supplements can really support certain individuals' sleep. But as always, make sure you consult your doctor for any supplements or health needs. Sometimes the issues that the child's having at school isn't about their behaviour or something being wrong with them. It's sometimes just that their body isn't ready for the day that we're asking them to have. And once we understand that, we stop blaming the child and we start finding ways to actually support them. If you're trying to work out what's going on for your child, that's actually the work that we do at the Guided Path. We look at the full picture and then start building a plan that actually fits your child so that things can improve across the board. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and follow us on Facebook. There's a heap more free content to come to support families. You don't have to walk this path alone.